apply this passage to the current political environment in the United States of America.
With the rights thing?
With the rights. As Christians in America, what we have a right to. What we have a right to demand.
Sure.
You know?
I think, we lose a lot of empathy, and we lose a lot of compassion for our fellow man, especially if the fellow man is on the other side of the aisle. Right? On the other side of an argument that, we make. And I don't think that therefore means we shouldn't try to do what we feel compelled to do, to have rational conversation, to participate in trying to get things legislated that was going to benefit people, and there's going to be people that have differences of opinion on
what that means.
Yeah, exactly. And so, but having charity for one another, I think, is huge. And we could probably extrapolate that aspect of like caring for the other person more, and that being the fundamental ethic, more so than getting something, proving a point,
winning an argument,
getting a policy passed, getting a certain politician elected. If those things are more important than how we treat others, that you really need to take a pause and look at and do some self-reflection.
I think that the way that we secure and or defend those rights in the public sphere and how that affects the witness of the gospel, I think that's probably where Paul would feel comfortable entering the conversation. Because Paul exercised his rights. I mean, when he was arrested, he very famously said, I'm a Roman citizen. I'm going to exercise my rights. But he did so in a way that he knew would advance the gospel. So his use of, quote unquote, his rights, whether spiritual rights in terms of morals and ethics, or even his societal rights in terms of his Roman citizenship, he would exercise those when he felt it, but it was always for the sake of advancing the gospel, rather than advancing a human agenda or his own influence or whatever. So I don't know, I reflect on things like that. And then just little things that are, especially Americans are into, like I have a right to speak up for myself. I have a right to defend myself. I have a right to say whatever I want. And I think we have to really examine that. Yes, as an American you do, but as a Christian, we are willing to forego some rights in order to serve our fellow man.
Yeah.
And
willing, right?
Willingly.
Yeah.
Yes. No. Depriving us of those rights, I think societally, our society is constructed in such a way where we can speak up if we feel like our rights are being violated. But, sort of unwillingly. But I think for any of us to say, am I willing to lay this aside, my right to whatever, to serve you? I just think it's a compelling argument. I think that's essentially what Jesus was saying.
Well, it's essentially what Jesus did.
Yeah, he did, by the way.
He gave up everything.
Right. And he taught it in the Sermon on the Mount. You have a right to only have to carry the garment, or to only have to carry the load a mile. You should take it a second mile.
Yeah.
Your rights aren't.
So that's the whole point, right? Because we say the word inalienable right. Like it cannot be alienated from us.
Right. It's inherent to us.
It's inherent to us. However, Christ deprived himself of, equality with God, right? We look at the kenosis passage in Philippians.
Right. Yeah.
He gave up something.
And think about that's Paul interpreting theologically the sacrifice of Christ. He's using the metaphor of what he was owed and what he was entitled to
encourage us to do what? To have the mind of Christ,
right?
And humility as being
to humbly serve each other, which is not demanding and not being entitled or being demanding.
So we certainly have those rights. However, we're encouraged to give up some things or these things so that way we might serve others. And, that would make sense in different contexts. And I'm not saying you should just live life as a...
and by the way, I think it's also important to say that I think what you said is kind of interesting, that they're surrendering their rights. They're not, the rights aren't being taken from them. So,
it's a good conversation. I was actually pleasantly surprised that this one there was so much content there. Because I know it seemed like it was more just one argument.
Yeah.
And then,
but it covers so many bases because he's he's proving out that line of basically, look, here's all the stuff I have a right to. So what he does is he says, I have a right to everything you say I don't have a right to. So why don't I use it? For you. So you sort of bash me because I don't exercise all my rights. But now I'm going to really tell you why I don't actually exercise them. I do. I have a right to everything that you say. You even expect that I should. And he says, I'm not going to on your behalf. If it's for you, I don't do this.
Yeah.
Because if you're a wealthy person in the Corinthian church, for example, and Paul takes your patronage, but we know there's poor people in the Corinthian church. So Paul's got to be able to say things about how the wealthy treat the poor. So he says, I'm not going to be beholden to you because I have to say things to all of you. I have to be able to communicate to all of you. And by the way, that wasn't true in other areas of Greco-Roman life. You could take the money from someone who is wealthy and then just teach to the wealthy the whole time because those classes didn't mix. The only place where the poor and the wealthy, the free and the bound, right, the free and the slave, men and women, and multi-generational, the only place in the ancient world where those people interacted was in the church, the Christian church. Nowhere else. And so Paul's trying to say, yeah, as a Greek wealthy person, you have a right, but as a Christian, you have to think of there are other people in the world. And so he's saying you can't bring your Greco-Roman values of patronage and rights and how you manipulate people and bring them into the church.
Yeah, we talked about Corinth just being a melting pot of different cultures and everything. It's an epicenter there. But to your point about class, there's probably not only factions that aligned based on like theological or mysteries or something like that, but certainly like the status and try to preserve that. Or we're going to talk about a little later about eating, taking communion and some people go hungry, some people I'm sure some of that class stuff.
Yeah, class is a real issue in the book of 1 Corinthians, and we don't like to talk about class a lot because it'll spark up things like Marxism and class struggle, class warfare, and that's not how the Bible thinks about class. But the Bible is saying that there is an equality because of the cross that you have to start incorporating in your life wherever you're at in society. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.